Here we are. Hello, everybody. I'm here with my friend and strategist, Simone Ellen Keller.
Hello.
Hi, Simone. So I was asking Simone what a strategist is, and she said it's someone who gets you where you want to go. So I like that.
Well, it's a fancy word for a person that creates a plan. And I do it using the innate things that make a person or an organization brilliant.
That's so cool. So I guess I am here today to help Simone with her passion of repositioning self-understanding as the cornerstone for our physical, emotional, and mental health. You are here, I guess, because you're seeking. It might be greater health, it might be greater happiness. You might just be curious, or this may very well be the last straw for you as you're feeling completely worthless and unable to cope, which is where I was a few years ago. But firstly, let me tell you that there's hope for you. Firstly, I'm going to let you know that the process of self-understanding is messy and hard. It takes bravery and commitment to upend parts of yourself, to be able to look at yourself in the eye, in the mirror, and see the real you. We've been taught our whole lives to act a certain way, to appear how other people want us to be. To suddenly turn that upside down is going to feel strange, uncomfortable, but then like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. So I've spent my whole life feeling uncomfortable, never really fitting in, not good enough, always striving. Through the process of self-discovery, I now actually like myself. I'm okay with where I'm at in life, and I can look at my story and my past almost like it's someone else's, and I no longer react the way I used to certain events or triggers. I'm definitely not perfect, and I'm always working and growing. So Simone, thank you for creating GeniusYou program. Firstly, I'd like to understand why you threw away your high-flying advertising agency company to create this program.
Well, I don't know if we can say high-flying, but also I didn't mean to throw it away, but I think, it was my lack of self-understanding which did actually lead to that. So I created quite the perfect storm, which resulted in me losing my business in 2013. And after I got over the initial rage and she did this to me and simmered down a bit, I recognized that I needed to do a bit of that mirror watching that is so an important part of self-understanding and working out who you are and how you came to be. So no matter how good I was as a brand strategist, I could see I was going to create another perfect storm that might even create more damage if I didn't actually address myself and who I was. So I didn't want to lose whatever was next. So that's why I went down this path.
Cool. And so who did you design this program for?
Well, it's actually for everyone. So as long as you're human, it's for you. I worked really hard to make sure that the program works from anyone that, 5-year-olds to people with fancy titles. The principles are universal and the framework is able to be used by anyone because it addresses the reasons why you can't do this just as much as it addresses the reasons you can. And there's a bit of a criteria though, and the criteria is actually bravery. So there seems to be a correlation between becoming who you want and this quality. But there's something about bravery. People always say to me, but you're so brave. But the thing is, you're not born with bravery. It's something that you have to practice. And with this program, you have to practice lots.
Awesome. And so what's your dream for the GeniusYou program?
Well, it doesn't matter if it's GeniusYou or any program, but I think self-understanding needs to be accessible to anyone. I believe that our brilliance as a humanity is our equalizer. When we're not started equal, but we all have this incredible capacity for bravery, for brilliance. So imagine what that would look like if we were able to live that. Imagine if we could put our own brilliance into the world, how different it would be.
Yeah, that's so cool. So when I was kind of searching or, figuring out my own mental health and what I wanted in life, I think there were a few routes that we could go down. One is just staying how you are and living out the same crap over and over and over. You know, breaking relationships, just feeling down. I was, you know, emotional eating, self-diagnosing with drugs and alcohol, all of those beautiful things. The other route was, and I did try it and did it, was go on medication and hand over, you know, my own health and wellness and mental health to the medical system. And then the next route, which I guess it took quite a lot of reluctance and hardness, is to really work through it and understand myself. And that's when I found you, which is really amazing. And I think, you know, self-understanding or figuring it out is a lot like swallowing concrete. It's not the funnest thing in the world to do. And it's been a real journey, you know, unending those parts of myself that I didn't even want to accept or recognize. So yeah, it is definitely a process. What's one little tool that you can teach people or people to start with to even understand what self-understanding is?
Well, I think going back to, you know, what you were talking about there with that self-understanding is the lack of process to be able to do it. One of the things that, you know, I've done with GeniusYou is when we're addressing things, we're actually looking at the setup of a human. It's not something we think about. Like, my intention with GeniusYou was to create a program that enabled people to be brilliant. What I didn't know at the time was, to be brilliant, you have to know how you work. And so what I did was applied the way that I do strategy, which is going, what's the most brilliant way of this invisible bit of us working? So you're made up of, let's say, 50 to 100 invisible bits. Which ones have you learned how to use? So what I've done is change the setup and then changed the framework of self-understanding. So hopefully made that process so much more digestible rather than it just being swallowing concrete. So because you know that you're doing things for a reason. So one of the foundational tools of GeniusYou, and it's a really good example of not learning how to use an invisible part of us, is how to self-observe. So as humans, we have this incredible capacity to observe ourselves. When we don't use it well, when it's kind of at its default setting, it's actually used for judgment. So we judge everything. We judge ourselves, we judge others. Everything's about being right and wrong over and over again. What we want to do is we want to learn to use this tool to see ourselves with curiosity and interest, rather like a mad scientist, rather than a judgmental person that's going around seeing if we're doing everything right or wrong. And what we want to do is be able to look at the whole lot of us rather than just a small part of us. So we want to be able to observe, watching our feelings, our thoughts, and our behaviors. And it's funny, but this is the content that develops you. So the first thing I do is teach people to do that. So move away from doing judgment, which stops it, and opening it up to curiosity and bravery. So right now, you can use your awareness or attention and move up to the ceiling. So you can get your awareness and move up there. One of my clients, one of my favorite ones, my farmer, actually calls it roof watching. So you can go up there, you can look at yourself, you can see that you're smiling, you can see that you're blinking, you can see that you're moving your head to one side, but also you can see you've had a good haircut yesterday. You can see what you're thinking. You can see that what you're feeling, like, I'm hoping that you get what I'm saying. I'm hoping you understand me. I'm feeling excited with this conversation. And what we want to be able to do is we want to move ourselves from being the role in our play, which is just the actor, to all the other parts. It's like getting an immediate promotion. So we can become the audience, we can watch ourselves, we can become the director, we can tell ourselves what to do, we can become the critic, but in a positive way. So what we want to do is, the more we're able to do this, the more we're able to see, and the more we're able to evolve. So that's one of the first tools that I teach.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that you, when we're doing work together, you talk about our 3 levels. So you talk about play, which is the way that, we respond, our operating system, and then our core.
Yeah.
So how do you really help us tap into our core and, get...
Well, I mean, that's one of the points of self-observation, is to be able to see ourselves at all the different levels. So the way that I talk about core is like, it's kind of like the soil. So we can have lots of seeds in the soil and we can manifest, we can see what grows, but we can't actually see what's in the core unless we're looking at the play. So one thing we don't understand about ourselves is the amount of defaults we've got. So our core forms our defaults, our operating system, and then we get to see it in the way that we show up in the world and how we present ourselves and what we do. But self-observation enables us to be able to look at all those different parts. So by being able to see ourselves without that judgment, with curiosity, we can go into how we feel about things truly. We can actually, not just how we kind of cover up our feelings or use default or manufactured feelings, but actually go into what our core reasons for doing different things are. So eventually, as you go through this process, you learn how to reset at all 3 levels. So instead of just looking at the results, which could be overeating, for example, we're actually able to look at the core reasons that you're doing that.
Yeah, cool. And so how do you help people with that understanding of, like, okay, this is the problem I've got, because that's what most people focus on, right?
Yeah.
They focus on, oh, I'm overweight, or I'm fighting with my husband, or I am overreacting to the kids and getting really frustrated. So that's where most people sit and look at and view their lives. How do you move people or shift people from that kind of end result?
So, I mean, people come to the program because they've got a problem. So, like quite often self-understanding is the very last thing we want to do. Or, we'd much rather go, try and fix it over here, or get a magic potion there, or whatever. So I work really hard to be able to teach a client the tools so they can use it in every single component of their lives. So they don't have to keep on coming back to me. Not that that's a problem, but what I teach is a framework for being able to resolve those problems. So when we don't understand how we work, we form a very, very robust defense system. And our defense system forms when our identity or our sense of self is threatened. So why we overeat, why we do all those things is very, very often our defense system. If we want to resolve our defense system, then we have to be able to see the thing at the core. And that's my job, to be able to do that. Fixing at the level of why isn't my relationship working and that's where it's showing up. It's not where the actual problem is. So being able to show a client how to be able to find that and resolve that properly, that's what we're going to do. And we use different frameworks to do that. But basically, we do something called defense smashing. So we move the things that we're trying to use to protect ourselves that very often are creating the problems in the first place.
Yeah, awesome. My favorite work that I've done with you is around parenting.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the problem that I came to you with is, how do I be a better parent? And I saw the way that you parent, which is so beautiful, and was very inspired by that, especially because your girls are, now grown and they're older. So you've been through that whole journey of parenting. Can you just tell me a little bit about, or tell everybody a little bit about your journey of parenting, and how that's evolved through your, journey of self-discovery?
So becoming a parent was probably, even though I don't think about it, like, I became a parent nearly 20 years ago. And I had such a tough teenage and early 20s that I was so worried that they were going to experience those years like I did. And I remember as soon as I had kids, I started writing a book, which never became anything, but it was like, what you don't do, please don't do this and don't do this and don't do that. And I still remember it. And I remember talking about it with a friend of mine who said, And it's so beautiful what you're doing, but I was so desperate for them not to experience life in the way that I did. And so what I discovered when I started doing, work on myself was that our children fall into what I call our wormholes, which are basically our negative beliefs. So, for example, if I deem myself unworthy, then there'll be certain behaviors that I'm doing that are actually creating that unworthiness. That's how it works. So if I don't resolve that, my kids are going to fall into it. And so a big part of my journey with the girls was to teach them how they operate, to be able to see how they're creating the lives that they're creating, and to make sure that the more I grow and develop, the more I'm actually able to help them grow and develop. Like, what I've created is a way of seeing what those core issues are and how to resolve them. I just got a text before from my daughter, who is in one of her first short films, and she's like, I'm feeling really vulnerable, and I'm able to talk her through why she's feeling vulnerable, etc. And instead of trying to run away from it or retreat from it, she has the tools to know what to do with it. So my big thing with parenting is that you have to be your best self in order to parent. And in order to be able to teach your kids how to do life, you have to know how to do life yourself. You can't. I remember a client said to me years ago, I said, what's your dream? What's your purpose? And he was like, I just want a better life for my kids. And I'm like, you're just defaulting to them, which means they're going to default to the next generation. So the big thing with me in parenting is the greater you are, the greater you can teach them to be. And the more you're able to see how the dynamics work with you, the more you can see how the dynamics work with your relationships. And I'm really proud of the fact that I was able to create a different world for those kids. And sometimes we spend time together and I look at the magic, and the fact is that they are teenagers and they are different, facing difficult things, but using this framework, it gives us so much joy and so much development. So I think parenting is a fantastic hook for personal development.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I've found in my health coaching practice is that most parents, or most people, come to me when they've got something wrong with their kids, and they are always, they're always in a second or a heartbeat, they will drop everything to fix what's wrong with their kids, and then I turn the mirror around and go, but what's wrong with you? What is actually, it's you that needs that
I think there's this
love.
Thing that happens, when we were kids and we wanted all the love in the world from our parents, and basically we looked at all the things that they did wrong or supposedly wrong, and then we went, well, when we're parents, we're not going to do that, and then we give our kids all the things that we thought we needed. And then we go, oh, well, you're still not working properly. And the truth is, they need to understand how they work. And we need to teach our children how to be the greatest expression of who they are, rather than some society deemed kind of what's right and wrong, etc. And the way that they can best see that is by us being the greatest expression of who we are. It works so much better that way around.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's so interesting. Since I've been working through my own self-understanding and who I am as a parent, I have just time and time again come up against this mirror of, if the child is being frustrated or something, it's generally they're reflecting me. It's me that's frustrated. And that's a real bitch, like I don't want it. It's always all about me.
I think
it is like,
I think our children show us exactly how we need to develop. That's the beauty of having children. And I think, and it's the same with having businesses. The businesses show exactly where the holes are and and if we were able, and this is the problem, is finding the process to resolve that is the issue, not the desire, not the willingness to put in the hard work. It's the process. And that's why I work so hard to create this process where, like being able to resolve things properly forever, is so amazing. Like the greatest thing I've ever wanted to do was teach my children how to be the best people they could be. It's what we all want to do, but we have to start with us.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's epic. So one of my favorite things in the world, as you know, is essential oils. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on what your favorite oil is to use and why.
Well, I was lucky enough to be given a very special kit by yourself when I started talking to you, and so I'm not going to be able to say that I love one. I've actually got forgiveness and peace and cheer and passion and motivate, and I use them all and consult, and I use them all at different times. But I think GeniusYou is one of the most powerful things that you can do. Any kind of self-development work that gets you to a point where you're able to go, I know how to make my life work, is going to be incredibly powerful. Now, it's not so much seeing yourself, which is the hard bit, because one of the things that we do is we make sure that you understand why you do the things you do. So it makes it much more digestible. The hard bit's actually emotions, and learning how to use the emotions that we've got. Whether, you know, in GeniusYou world, there's our defense emotions and then there's our core emotions, and we want to get back to our core emotions. Defense emotions are manufactured. We don't want those. We want the real ones. And core emotions are so important because they allow us to experience life, but they also direct us on what to do. We need hurt, we need despair, we need disgust, we need all those emotions. We can't get them up. And working with essential oils to help us take those emotions back is just such a great support system. So the hard part of GeniusYou is emotions, and having essential oils to help us whilst we're retrieving those emotions was vital.
Yeah, when I first started my journey with essential oils, I looked at them more from a physical perspective. So I had really, I guess you'd call it debilitating eczema. So eczema literally from my eyelids down. And I had really terrible digestive problems. And so I actually looked at the oils and the supplements to help heal me. And for every essential oil, there was the physical aspect of it, and then when I was learning, and then on the other side there was the emotional aspect, and I was kind of like, I don't really believe that stuff.
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's kind of like the heebie-jeebie woo-woo, like I'll leave that to other people.
Yeah.
And as I've come, I guess, a little bit more become a little bit more open, I have started, I guess, acknowledging my emotions, and now Simone's actually teaching me how to embrace those emotions and use them as my superpower, which is it feels very hard and horrible at times because there's a lot of feelings, and for me it's not just like a feeling in my head. I literally get those feelings through my whole body. So, you know, if I'm feeling scared, I literally, my whole stomach, you know, contracts and gurgles, and my muscles get tight, and, you know, my vision goes more tunnel. And so I'm not, like, my emotions are very much physical, and that's been quite a lot for me. I come from a farming background where you pretty much suck it up, sunshine, and get on with life. And then when I moved off the farm, I went and trained to be a chef, and it's like you just, you know, power through, get your job done. And so I guess I've always come from that quite masculine, get shit done approach. And now working with the GeniusYou program, I'm starting to understand those emotions and understand that they're not something to be squashed and pushed down and powered through. And yes, it actually helps propel you. But Simone, you're better at explaining this. So tell me how we can embrace our emotions as our superhero.
Well, you know, one of the ways that GeniusYou was formed was by looking at all our invisible bits and going, hey, how can this be used in a brilliant way? So when I started, it was all about distilling your brilliance, your purpose, your superpowers, all those kind of things. But eventually it got to self-observation, it got to beliefs, it got to operating systems, it got to all these different aspects, all the parts of us that make us human. And one of the most beautiful parts was emotions. And for me, every emotion has a purpose. So if you look at jealousy, we turn jealousy into bitterness and awfulness and stuff. But to me, jealousy is amazing. It shows core desire. It's like, it doesn't mean you want that girl's boyfriend. It means you want that connection. And so if we, people say to me, I don't know what I want. And I'm like, just go around and walk around in the world and see what you're jealous of. Feel it. Go and touch it. Like what I look at frustration means it's not deep enough. Go deeper. Resentment means balance the scales. Anxiety, like if you look at it in its kind of purest form, it's that stop doing it that way. Fear to me, don't face the fear and leap anyway. Fear is about resourcing. It's about gaining knowledge and support and partnership and lots of different things. So all of these things we've got, they are fantastic. They're wonderful. We've got, and you think about if someone does something awful to you and you feel disgust and you're able to actually use that and go, actually, I don't want to be near that. When we use our emotions properly, they give us so much power. Unfortunately, because we don't learn how we work, we form a defense system, and that defense system is a whole lot of manufactured emotions, and that gets really confusing. What we want to do is go back to the raw beauty of emotions and be able to use them properly. I was just talking to a client just recently, and they got past their defense system, and they just are sitting in hurt. And they're just feeling that hurt. Hurt's so powerful if you use it properly. It's like pain when you burn yourself. You pull if you're hurting, you should protect yourself. If we have a defense system that takes us away from that, we don't get to learn how to use the emotion properly. So emotions are something we need to be really savvy at. And it's not about being male or female. They're ours. It's how we experience being human. So we have to turn them into superpowers. We have to, and we speak in that language. Like we speak in the language in our home of retrieving emotions, of feeling emotions, of making sure we become good at them. If I had a school, I'd be teaching kids how to use their emotions properly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And how can we talk to our kids about their emotions? Let's start from the 5 to 10-year-old sort of ages. What sort of ways can we actually use that and help them embrace their emotions?
I think we've got to be really careful to understand the difference between defense emotions, which are the ones that cover what I call untruths. So, for example, if a kid's being angry, quite often they feel powerless. If you try and deal with the anger, you're missing the point of what they're actually masking. So, the first step is to become really good at seeing what the core issue is, what it is they're actually feeling. And I think that the big key for me is as parents learning how to do this first. And once they can do it with themselves, like I call I was the lead guinea pig on this program. And once they can do it with themselves, they can teach their kids. So we so often mask true emotions. And when we get to the real ones, when we get to the ones that are actually causing the issue, then we get to resolve them forever, rather than us just kind of needing another kind of layer of defense later on. So learning how to talk in that language to our kids is vitally important.
Yeah, cool. And for yourself, how do you learn how to speak to yourself in a nice way or in a powerful way?
In a powerful, you mean good inner thoughts and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I think, the truth is it's a big journey, and it's about overturning the stuff. Like when a client comes into me, depending on how long they've been alive without knowing how they work, there's a lot of work to be done. So I think that what we've got to do is see the truth. It's actually see, you know, how we create our own untruths. How we, for example, if I have an untruth that I'm unworthy, and if I spend a whole lot of time people pleasing, and I'm people pleasing to people that don't deserve it necessarily, or a whole lot of other things, that's actually the behavior that's making me unworthy. So by being able to see that, and by being able to actually understand how we create our own stuff, we get the opportunity to revise it. And then when we revise it, our self-talk changes a lot. And I think that's important to this program. It's very pragmatic. It's not just about a whole lot of thinking. It's about using all the different components we create using our beliefs, thoughts, and behaviors, and we've got to tackle them all at the same time.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I guess for myself, I've read so many books, and I know so much about it. But what I love about the GeniusYou program is actually working it out. So actually putting it into practice. So how can people come and join your program and start, understanding themselves and implementing these strategies and techniques?
Well, I think everybody, join my, follow me on Facebook or whatever, or on Instagram. I think there's lots of information that people can start reading about. And at the moment, GeniusYou's delivered one-on-one. So it's delivered through a program, and I'm working out how to do the next step. Like, I had this big desire, which was that people were able to step into their brilliance. And it's taken me 7 years to create that. So at the moment, that's delivered through a program that takes 6 weeks. So that's about 2 hours time a week. And that works fantastically. And then people go on, they do more work with me, etc. The next step for me is to work out how to deliver it in groups, and I'm just formulating plans to do that at the moment, so it's more accessible to more people. So yeah, jump on Facebook, contact me. As you can see, I would love to talk to this about this topic forever. So yeah, just get in contact.
That's so cool. So I'll put your the link and your contact details underneath this video for anybody that wants to get in touch. And I would just say go for it. Like, a lot of people wouldn't even blink about going and getting a full set of tires put on their car.
Yeah.
And they just think, oh, that's just what is necessary. I think that investing time and money into yourself is such a better investment for the long term.
Better than car tires.
So much better than car tires.
My new strapline.
So yeah, I just think that anybody that's feeling stuck, for me, figuring out how to break free of addiction has been a massive one. Simone and I have actually got very similar stories around, substance abuse or alcohol addiction, and being stuck in that, stagnant place. Anybody that really wants to, I guess, up their game, or move to the next level in life. If you're kind of stuck in, oh my gosh, I'm 35 or I'm 45 or I'm 55, and is this all life has for me? That's when you need to go to Simone and unearth your genius, because you weren't put on this planet to be average. You weren't put on this planet just to serve your children or serve your workplace or be a slave to your business. Like, you were put on this earth to make a difference, to, create joy, hope, love, happiness for yourself and for your community and family. And I think that tapping back into your God-given genius is really what you need to step into, and investing, what did you say, 6 weeks, a couple of hours a week for 6 weeks will literally change the trajectory of your life. And I've been looking a lot into legacy, so what I can pass on to my children. And I think that's what really drew me to Simone, was that I want to really break the, break that generational problems, I guess. So we get given, handed down the good and the bad from our parents. And Simone and I both have that passion of breaking that generational, addictions, abusive behavior, controlling, etc., and really pass on the goodness to our children, but also help them become the geniuses that they were born to be, because they shouldn't just be carbon copies of us. So I just think that every human should do this program. And I think that, putting time and effort into this kind of self-discovery and self-worth is literally the best money that you'll ever spend, ever. And then you will be able to go out and make such a bigger impact in your world. So thank you so much, Simone, for all of the work that you've put into discovering all of the hard stuff that you've done to discover yourself, and now for actually putting it into a program that can be used by others. I just honor you for this work. It's actually amazing. And I just really hope that lots of you guys can, learn from this and go on to live a better life. And I love the fact that you are looking at doing it in group programs, because I think these things should be taught in schools, in workplaces, in all sorts of community aspects. And I think once we understand ourselves, we can actually react so much better to others, and teach all of the things that we're put on this earth to teach.
Beautifully put.
Thank you so much. I will put this little recording up in my private Facebook group, The Essentialists, for all of my essential oil loving people. And anybody that's on Facebook, thank you so much for working through this with us and watching, and hopefully you've learned a little bit. Please reach out, direct message myself or Simone if you want to get in touch, and we can go from there. Cool. Thank you.
Bye.